Hello and welcome to the Blood Reds morning stream. I'm joined by my fellow Liverpool.com writer Emmet Gates, and we're going to talk a little bit about Erling Haaland today and some exciting returnees from injury for Liverpool. First of all, there's been a new documentary about Erling Haaland and his transfer to Manchester City, where it was revealed that Liverpool were among the clubs interested in him, but in terms of his tier list, he only had Liverpool on the bottom of his list. What did you make of those reports, Emmett? Did you see that documentary or the tier list that he sort of had in mind for his next transfer?
Yeah, I haven't watched the documentary yet, but I did see the tier list. I read an article this morning which quoted Holland's father, Al Fingy, basically going through the list of teams, and I thought it was interesting that they put Liverpool, or they consider Liverpool that far down.
Hmm.
Considering that, when the decision would have been made, Liverpool were neck and neck with City going for the title, and Liverpool were on course at that point for a quadruple. So it was interesting that they put Liverpool that far down. I don't know, obviously, how they were grading the teams, shall we say. I don't see how you could have put. I think, if memory serves right, he put Barcelona and Liverpool at the same level, or the same
And Chelsea, and Chelsea as well.
Chelsea. I don't really see how Liverpool could go alongside those two teams, judging when they would have made this decision. You're talking what, March, April, May, maybe, of
Hmm.
2022. So yeah, I found it a bit peculiar. Um, Perhaps they wanted City in terms of how Holland would fit in the system, working with Pep Guardiola, and essentially what City were willing to pay in wages per week, which is, it's reported that he's on £400,000 a week. Liverpool were never realistically going to pay that for him, even if the transfer fee itself was relatively low for a player of his quality. So maybe that's why they considered City number one. I think Bayern was number two. Is that right?
Yeah, and then I think it was PSG and Real Madrid. No, Real Madrid third and PSG fourth. So I think if you look at those clubs, I think your point is quite accurate. It was probably a financial incentive that he kind of had in mind because all the top clubs there on that list would have probably offered him hefty wages.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, obviously, have you watched the documentary yet?
Not yet, not yet.
Yeah. So it'd be interesting to see if they kind of elaborate on, why they considered City number one, Bayern number two, and Liverpool way down the list. But they might not. I don't know until we watch it. But yeah, I think perhaps maybe in terms of the overall package, you know, money, the coach, playing for the champions, you can maybe see why City are number one. But I don't see how they've come to the conclusion that Liverpool's way down the list.
I mean, I guess you got a question, were Liverpool that interested in him in the first place? Like, did
Yeah,
Liverpool even make the effort to approach him? I'm sure there was maybe some tentative approaches, some initial sort of touching up, but not anything like serious, I don't think. And at the same time, City is the club that his father used to play for.
yeah,
It's a club that have obviously had a massive change since his father left, and he says he grew up supporting Manchester City. I don't know if I believe that, but it was clearly a club that was close to his heart and a club that is on the rise. So I think
yeah,
that kind of explained his decision, and I think maybe it looks good to include Liverpool on there to sort of get the City fans on his side even more. Like, oh look, he rejected Liverpool, and perhaps the truth is that there wasn't that much interest from Liverpool in the first place because they know you simply can't compete with the likes of Real Madrid and Paris Saint-Germain and Manchester City these days.
yeah. And I think too, like, I think from a Liverpool perspective, and this isn't sounding like sour grapes, that he picked City over Liverpool, but I think we all know he's not going to last at City. He's not going to be a City player for a long time. He'll be 2 or 3 seasons, and then he'll want a bigger move again to either Real or Barca. I don't think Liverpool probably would have went in for Haaland knowing that he was only really going to stick around for a couple of years. They went for Darwin Nunez in the end, who could
Mm.
stay 7, 8, 9 years. So I think maybe Liverpool perhaps took that into consideration. That Haaland only sees City essentially as a stepping stone to something bigger. If he can win things along the way, then so be it. But I don't think Liverpool would have invested that much money in a single player, knowing that he isn't likely to stick around. That's
Yeah,
just how I feel, anyway.
yeah, I think I have to agree. And obviously, Haaland came from Dortmund, and I think Jim raises an important question. He says, "This is the same reason that the lad from Dortmund will probably go somewhere else." I'm assuming he means Jude Bellingham. Do you think Bellingham probably will make a similar decision? I mean, let's be honest, the clubs that were interested in Haaland are probably going to be interested in Bellingham as well because of his talent and because a lot of teams need midfielders at the moment. So, do you see that as a kind of foreshadowing?
In terms of, you feel like Bellingham will go to his next club and it'll be a stepping stone, and like Haaland, is that what you mean?
No, as in he will choose perhaps a better financial offer,
Yeah,
and not just necessarily the financial, but the football aspect of it. If you look at Manchester City or Real Madrid, you can't really argue that it's better than Liverpool. I think it's on the same level at least.
yeah. I mean, it's a tough one in a way. And with Bellingham, he's already shown that he's not afraid to go abroad. Um, but I do feel that his next move would be back to the Premier League. Um, and then I think it's just he basically has to weigh up which team would offer him the best A, prospects of winning trophies, and B, wages. And I do feel like because of the current state of Liverpool's midfield, he could make the biggest impact there. I
Mm,
kind of feel like he would get kind of lost in the shuffle at City because of the quality of midfielders that Pep Guardiola already has. So I feel like his presence would be greater felt at Liverpool. It's whether Liverpool can afford the the 130 million or whatever it is at this point to sign him plus wages is a different matter. I think that's where Liverpool would probably fall down on, is the financial package, because they simply can't compete with City money and even to a certain extent Man United money.
I mean, it's going to be a fascinating watch, and let's hope if there is a documentary about his transfer in a year's time, then we won't be having the same conversation, but instead we'll already be talking about his brilliance in a Liverpool shirt. On a positive note, let's talk about some of the returnees for Liverpool. Uh, One is Ibrahima Konate, who is a crucial returnee, I think, in terms of adding some depth into that Liverpool defence, which has struggled at times this season. And then also Calvin Ramsay is back training with the first team for the first time on a sort of regular basis. And I think that's going to be those two players are very key in terms of adding more depth into that Liverpool defense for sure. For example, we've seen James Milner play right back this season already, and I think with Ramsey coming back, then we'll see less of that hopefully.
Yeah, exactly. And I think Konate is, he's a key return considering how bad some of Liverpool's defensive displays have been so far this season. And I think Konate was actually in really good form towards the back end of last season. Obviously, he was starting more and more games alongside Van Dijk, and I think he's been a big miss. Um, he definitely would have played in. He probably would have played in the Napoli game, I suspect, had he been fit. So it's good to have him back, and I think his pace and physicality will be needed. I mean, not that Van Dijk has lost any of that, but I just feel like with Gomez and Matip going through a bit of a rough patch, Konate's return is much needed. But I don't think he's going to play against Brighton. It could be the next game, Rangers perhaps in the Champions League. But it's good to have him back. And McCallum Ramsay, yeah, as you said, Milner's already played right back. As long as there's cover for Trent, it's always a positive thing, and it's not a 37-year-old midfielder converted into a right back.
Yeah, I mean, certainly they're both not just for the present, but for the future as well in terms of their age. And it's going to be exciting to see more of Ramsey and, of course, Konate as well, who only lost one game in his entire Liverpool career so far. So that's a very positive omen for Liverpool. I think that about wraps it up for today. Thanks, Emmett, for joining me. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. And do make sure to check out all the rest of the Blood Red content and the Liverpool.com content going out today and the rest of the week.